Thank you. Erev Tov, everyone. We begin this week to read the fifth book of the Torah, fourth book of the Torah, and in the language of Chazal, it's called the Chumash Apkudim, because in it Jewish people are counted twice. So there's a general question, which I don't know if we'll deal with tonight, is what's the purpose of counting? Rabboni Shel Kaviyachol knows the number. What's our purpose? And with such detail and repetition, so it's strange. So Rashi says, the famous Rashi, that mitol chiboson monon. It's an expression of God's love for us. Person counts one's assets. So we like to be minutely aware of how much wealth we have, to be aware of our family, whatever we consider to be important. So we count it over and over again. I know people who, they have cash in the house, they count it every day. So it's an expression of God's love to us. Okay. But why the repetition? So Rashi holds that we were already counted when we gave the machzis hashekel. So the silver from the machzis hashekel went into the adonim, into the posts that were used in the Mishkan. And there the Torah records that there were 603,350 adonim. So that's the machzis hashekel, from males 20 to 60. So that was the count. A few months later, we're counting again. Why do you have to count again? Did that count change? So Rashi learns that it's the same count. It's the same number, 603,350. And the question as to why it's counted again. So there are those that say that Rashi means that the first count of the adonim of the machzis hashekel included the Leviim, because the Leviim also had to give machzis hashekel. This second count does not include the Leviim, because we're going to have in Parshas Baloscha, that the Levium are counted separate. So the count is not exactly the same. So therefore, there is, so to speak, a chidush in the count. But basically, Rashi holds that they counted not by the individual birthdays that people had, but by the year. In other words, from Tishrei to Tishrei. So therefore, the count could remain the same if it was counted in Nisan and then it's counted later in Elul, because the year didn't pass. The Ramban disagrees with all of this. The Ramban says it's a different count completely. The fact that it comes out the same numerically, so it's one of the many miracles of the desert, that the count remained the same, but it's a different count. It's not the same. It's not the Adonim. And according to the Ramban, the idea of the count, Rashi says it's to show the love. And the Ramban has a more practical statement that Moshe has to know how many he has, what he's dealing with, etc. The Ramban says also the difference is that before it was a general count. He said 603,350. How many were from Reuven? How many were from Shimon? That we don't know. From the Adonim, from the Machshis HaShekel. Here, the Torah concentrates on an individual count. How many there were in each Shevet? As we'll have later, how many there were in each family. So the Ramban says a remarkable thing here. He says, well, we have a principle that you're not allowed to count people. And that by counting people, you expose them, they become vulnerable to problems. And therefore, the tradition by the Jewish people is never to count people. How does he count here? Who gave him the heter to count? So the Ramban says an exalted idea, which really has resonance. Moshe Rabbeinu counted the people. He counted 603,350 people. Every person that Moshe counted had to appear before Moshe. And when they appeared before Moshe, Moshe gave them a bracha that the count should not damage them. That the count should not be negative. So according to Ramban, this took months. You got to count 603,350 people. So how many can you do a day, etc., etc.? But he says here a deeper idea, that if you want to be the leader of the people, you have to know the individuals whom you are leading. It's not sufficient to know the general count, because each one is an individual. Each one has his own needs and ideas and plans. So if you want to lead the people, you have to know the people. And that therefore, that was the reason for the count, is so that Moshe would, so to speak, get to know the people. everyone appeared before him. So if everyone appeared before him, each one was special. So according to the Ramban, this is connected to last week's parsha. The Torah concluded with a parsha of Erechim. The person deals with the worth of the person. The person makes a pledge that the worth of so-and-so or the worth of the person himself should be given to Hegdish, to charity. How do you establish the worth of a person? So the Torah establishes it 50 shekel, 30 shekel, 10 shekel, 5 shekel, 3 shekel. Those are arbitrary numbers that the Torah uses. But the Torah wants to emphasize to us that the worth of a person is inestimable. You cannot reduce him to just a shekel. Person has a value, worth, and everyone has that. So therefore, the Ramban says when the Jewish people passed before Moshe, it's not the same count as before. The same count as before, that's, 50 shekel, 30 shekel, that's what people are worth. Now, he has to see everyone individually. So this one, oh, what a wonderful person. Oh, what a talented person. What a great person. This one has children, this one, you see the person differently. You count them differently. So therefore, that's the count that the Torah wanted us to have. That everybody should pass before Moshe, and Moshe should see each person and bless each person according to the talents and abilities that the person had. And that is really the task of leadership. It's certainly the task of an educator. If you treat all 40 children in the classroom equally, it's a failure because they are not equal. In numbers, they're equal, but they're not equal. And that's part of the problem that we have when we institutionalize education and other things, is that it becomes difficult to deal with the individual. The individual loses his or her place. It's not there anymore. So there's a shiur that's given in one of the leading yeshivas here in Yerushalayim, and the Maggid Shiur is so famous, and he is so astute, and he has an attendance of between 900 and 1,000 for every shiur that he gives. The yeshiva had to build a special room for him. I once had a conversation with him. So he said, it's a terrible thing. He said, I don't know 900. I can't know them. So I didn't know whether my shiur is effective or not, because I don't know who the recipients are. And that's why we see in Chazal, The Gemara says that 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died. But then he had another 5 Talmidim that he rebuilt the world with them. So the Balei Musar say that idea, 24,000, he didn't know them. So the Lo Noagu Kovet Zeh because Rabbi Akiva didn't influence them. The 5, he knew every one of them. So they're the ones that could build the world. So that's the idea that the Ramban has as regarding the count that we read, that it's a different count and it's connected somehow to the Parsha of Erchin that we read in last week's Parsha as well. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer, Rotza HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakos Es Yisrael, L'fichach Hirbo Lahem Torah Mitzvot, Shener Adonai Chafetz Aman Sitko,